Okay, it's the end of the session. Marley and Dixie are both inside because it's a pretty hot day and they were panting pretty good. In the summertime, it's really important. This is the roadmap to success, by the way. In the summertime, it's important that we don't let our dogs overheat. We often forget the fact that they're wearing a fur coat all year long. And one little tip to see if it's too hot for your dog to walk on. If you hold your hand down on the concrete and if you can hold it for longer than 9 seconds without burning your hand, it's okay. If it's too hot for you to hold your hand down for 9 seconds, it's too hot for your dog to be on the pavement. Okay. One of the first things we talked about was exercise. The Guardians here do a good job of exercising, but I think we could supplement it with a little bit more. Remember, for dogs, exercise is best done in shorter sprints multiple times a day. Dogs these size sleep probably 14 to 16 hours a day. When they're asleep, they're recharging their batteries. Then they need to burn some energy. Now, if the dogs come up to you and nudge you multiple times, or they bark multiple times, or are naughty multiple times, or not, naughty, I guess not necessarily multiple times, ask yourself, how long has it been since the dog's been exercised? If it's longer than an hour, your dog's probably saying, I'm bored or I need some exercise. So I'm bugging you to do it for me. So if you start identifying it that way, and then you take the dog to the stairs and do the doggy stairmaster, something you could search on my website. I used to do that doggy stairmaster, 2 words. Well, you do 5 minutes of the doggy stairmaster is equivalent to like a 20 or 30 minute walk. You could also play fetch. I would start using the harness that you have and fill it up with a bottle of water on each side or some bags of sand. Play around with the weight. That makes the walk more efficient for the dog. Something else you can do is scent games, so hiding those treats. There's also something called Cookie in the Corner, which is a version of it. A lot of different things that you can do. Also, the dogs, I noticed one of them, I think it was Dixie, was taking the treat a little bit rough. So one of the things you can do is you can hold the treat between your pinched hand and hold it out like this. Some people will hold it here, fold their thumb over it, and just collapses the dog can't get it. And the dog's gonna try to get it. Make sure you're not holding it above the dog's nose. If it's jumping up, you're holding it too high. So you hold it at nose level and they're gonna try to get it. As soon as they lick, release it. And when it goes in their mouth, say the word gentle. So what you're doing is saying, you're marking the command or marking a command word of gentle with the dog being gentle and taking its treats. And when it protests and kind of nibbles and all that fun stuff, it doesn't work, it doesn't get the treat. Don't release it when it's doing those things. You can also, some people like doing this with a metal spoon, put a little peanut butter and put a piece of Kibble treat on it, hold it out, the dog will chomp down the spoon, they won't like the sensation, and then they'll learn to start using their lips and their tongue, and when they take it that way, you say gentle. So now later on you can say gentle and the dog will do it. Take it more gently. Now keep in mind that if the dog is very aroused or excited, that's often when they're going to be more toothy excuse me, with their bites. So don't do that when they're overexcited, or practice and help them practice doing it gently under progressively more and more exciting or stimulating situations. The idea is to come up with the exercise that is multiple times a day that sets the dog up for success. One of the things the dogs like to do is jump on guests when they come in. Well, they're both very excited for that. So I showed the Guardian a technique, and you can search my website. If you search for honey jumping, you'll find a technique that, or a video that explains the technique that I showed. So remember, what you want to do is have people call or text you ahead of time. In a perfect world, you want to exercise your dog a little bit ahead of time. Some doggy stairmaster, fetch, whatever it is. And then give your dog 10 minutes to recover. Then the person comes to your door and knocks. When they knock, you have the dog on a leash. You step on the end of the leash and you size it up so the dog can only get within about 5 feet of the front door. You have somebody else go and open the door or have them come in themselves. And then what they do is they come in and they stop about a foot outside of the dog's reach. If the dog is facing me from this direction, I turn sideways so it has my right or left side. And I wait. I'm watching the dog out of the corner of my eye, but I'm not giving any commands. As soon as the dog it's gonna be all wiggly and super doggy, and as soon as it kind of settles down, then you turn to engage, and as soon as it gets excited, you pull back. And what you're saying is, when you're calm, I'm very interested in petting you. When you become excited, I lose interest. And you'll have a whole lot of turning back and forth. You're not telling the dog what to do. Don't micromanage them, and watch the video on honey jumping, or just search for honey. It'll come up. It's a golden doodle doing the super dog thing. But you want to rep that. So anytime if people are coming over, arrange it. Say, hey, we're going to do this weird thing when they come in. The dog's going to be on a leash. We're going to have you and put painter's tape or some masking tape down on the floor where you want the dog to be, or the person to be. And so the dog can't get within this close of him. The dog's reaching and trying to get to him, it can't. But as soon as it's calm, you pet it. That's a form of operant conditioning. We're just using the leash as a tool. I did the same version of that with kind of a pre-mac with the kennel. So we did it with Dixie first and waited for her to be calm. When she was, then I took her off the leash, went over to Marley's kennel, and I waited, and I just stood there and waited. As soon as he sat down, I reached for the handle. He got up, I pulled my hand back, told him to sit. He sat down, I reached down. This time he stayed seated, jiggled it, He didn't get up, so I opened it. When I opened it, he came out nice and calm. So those are really important things to help the dog develop and practice some self-restraint and self-control. It's something that they don't naturally have. We have to create scenarios to help them do that. Those are a couple of great examples of it. All right, so exercise multiple times a day. If your dog's naughty, interpret that as they need some exercise. It gets mouthy, it's nudgy. If you're petting with a purpose or petting with a purpose and it keeps on, you tell it to sit and it nudges you, and you tell it to sit and nudges you. Again, after 2 or 3 times, you should identify this. Again, the dog needs some exercise. All right, so let me see. We also talked about rules and the importance of rules, as well as dog psychology. I'm going to give you the quick brass tacks. Anything your dog is doing when you pet it or give it attention is what you are specifically rewarding. Throughout the session, the dogs went and invaded the guardian's personal space, and she petted them. So what she's saying is, invading my personal space is the way to ask me for attention. So now remember, you can pet a fearful dog and make it more fearful, an excited dog more excited, aggressive dog more aggressive, barky, jumpy, whatever it is. This applies for good behaviors and bad behaviors. So if the dog is nervous and you pet it, you'll make it worse. So what you want to do if the dog's nervous or anxious, the best thing to do is increase the distance. But if the dog's nervous and anxious, you want to comfort it, you can lay your hand on them. They do associate touch with affection, but as soon as you start petting or scratching, you're going to reinforce it. So let me see. So basically for the rest of the dog psychology, remember, rules are not a negative. Enforcing the rules does not make you mean. Breaking the rule is a horrible way to reward a dog. It only makes them want to do that thing again. And remember, the rule is to structure things the dog is not allowed to have so it can practice self-restraint. Well, if you reward them with it, they're going to keep on wanting to break the rule, and you kind of are defeating the purpose. So some of the rules, let me see. And remember, good attention, bad attention, same thing. And anything the dog does in your presence is the dog's way of, is looked at by the dog as getting your seal of approval. Dogs go through life probing, waiting for somebody to say, that's the boundary, that's the limit, that's the edge. So they're waiting and expecting you to do it. Well, they're expecting the leaders to do it. In the dog world, the leaders are the ones who enforce rules. So if you don't have any rules, the dog sees you as a peer, then listening to is optional. So rules, it takes about 66 days for a dog to form a behavior pattern or habit. So I always tell people the rules should be in place for a minimum, in the perfect situation, minimum of 3 months, or as long as the problem's still going on. And then after that point, if you do want to break the rule, it should be because you want to break the rule, not to reward the dog for doing something or good behavior. The rule should be broken only for good behavior. So if I let the dog on the furniture, for example, which is the first rule I suggested, and the dog starts barking, it loses that privilege. And then it would need another invitation. I invite the dog up, and it starts stretching itself and pushing into me, and I don't like that. I tell it to get down. It now has to wait for my opportunity to do it next time, and there's nothing the dog can do to get it. That's why we don't want to reward by breaking the rule. All right, so let me see. Get the letter X mats. Get one for each cushion. Remember, it's not where the furniture is, it's furniture or not. Sleeping can be different than furniture, but make sure that you order those X mats and keep them on, and every time you want to sit there, you just fold it, put it on the chair. But that way it'll police it. Remember, every time the dog goes back to the old way, it's going to make them, you're going to lose a lot of your progress. So the rules will be very strictly enforced for at least 3 months, or as long as the problem's still going on. No furniture. You can sleep in the bed, but the dog has to get permission from the person to get invited into the bed. And again, only for good behavior and only where the person wants the dog to be. Another rule, the dog has to sit at the door, or sit to be let out of the kennel, or sit in any doorway or opening to get in the car, to get out of the car. We start this by going to this door right here, and we say sit 1 time. Remember, the more you say it, the less you mean it. If the dog doesn't sit within 3 seconds, sit down somewhere nearby. Don't repeat the command. That's just going to water down your authority. And then sit down, wait for 1 minute, and then go back to the door and tell the dog to sit. Command it. If it doesn't sit within 3 seconds this time, look at my timer, make sure we're still recording. If the dog doesn't sit within 3 seconds this time, I'll walk away and sit down for 2 minutes, and I sit down for 4 minutes, 8 minutes. Make sure you sit down. And then keep on setting that timer with Alexa. And as soon as you say sit and the dog sits, you open the door and let him out. So if I let if Dixie sits, I let her out and wouldn't let Marley out. I'm paying based on performance. Also remember to do that little motivation trick. Grab about 10, 15 treats, put them in a ramekin or somewhere in the kitchen, and all day long, every once in a while, pull out 1 treat, make sure it's a treat rip in half, and say, come. Whoever comes first gets a treat. Whoever comes second doesn't get a darn thing unless they gave the same effort as the first dog. Then I would tear it in half and give it to both of them. This creates a motivation for the dogs to want to listen to you and to perform better, because that being first is what's rewarded. All right, let me see. The other rules we talked about. So for the door, sit and keep double length of time, and eventually do it with all doors. It'd be harder for them to sit out here to come inside because of the steps. unless you do wider steps when you rebuild them. But to go through the baby gate, any other door in the house, if you're getting in your car, you get to the parking lot, turn your car off, stop, look at the dog, say sit. If it doesn't sit, pull out your phone, read, send an email, check a text message. When as soon as the dog sits, then you open the door and let it out. That's operant conditioning. So when you do what I want, you get what you want. Well, that's actually pre-hack as well. All right, so let me see. Other rules: not be allowed in the kitchen when you're preparing food, not being allowed around any people that are eating food. And if you want to figure out how to do that, we didn't get a chance to go through that today. But if you go to my website, search for Invisible or Kitchen, you'll have videos that will show you how to do that. All right, we also went over petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose is if you want to pet the dog, or the dog is demanding attention from you by nudging, pawing. Remember, don't do the shake anymore. You can always go back to it later. But the dog, if you like this, you must really like this, is how dogs look at it. But if the dog does this to you, it's claiming you. And if you pet it, you're saying, yes, you're my boss. And then if the dog sees you as your boss, then it doesn't have to listen to you at all. All right, so leaders tell, followers ask. So the dog comes and nudges you, give it a counter order, tell it to sit. If it's already sitting here, tell it to sit here, or to lay down. Don't ask for a shake. If it sits within that 3-second window, pet it under its chin. Say the word sit and only the word sit. And this is the most important time to say the command word. Most people say come, and the dog comes to you, say good boy. Sit, good boy. Lay down, good boy. What does good boy mean? Everything. So it doesn't mean anything. So when the dog comes to you, pet it and say come. When it sits, pet it and say sit. When it lays down, pet it and say crash, chill, down, whatever your command word is. One word commands, they hear the first word that you say. And also don't pronunciate it weird. Come and come are different command words. And petting under the chin, remember, facilitates that nose up orientation that proud dogs have. Petting here creates down nose. So avoid petting on top of the head. So the dog comes up and nudges me. Nothing happens other than I give it a counter order, tell it to sit. If it sits in that 3-second window, I pet it on its chin and say sit. If it doesn't sit, playing hard to get works great for dog training. Lean back, read your newspaper, watch some TV, do whatever else you're doing. Show the dog, I have 7 other things I could be doing. I wanted to pet you, but you couldn't be bothered to pet me, so I'm on to other things. That will make your pets more valuable and make the dog more inclined to listen to you the next time. And if it does sit, then you pet it as much or as little as you want. And if you stop petting it, nudges you again, you need some exercise. All right. Also for exercise, remember to order the snuffle mat, Snuffle, like Snuffleupagus, and you can order on Amazon. The first one will come up as a gray one. That's the one that I showed you in the video. That's the one that I prefer. I'd also order an Omega Paw Treat Ball. Get the medium or large version of it. And you could feed your dog kibble. There's all sorts of treat dispensing toys. That's a great way to stimulate them and boost their self-esteem because they're earning their food. All right, so if I tell the dog to sit when it nudges me and it sits, I pet it on its chin and say sit. If it doesn't, then I don't do anything. After a while, the dog will recognize I can't tell the human anymore. I have to ask, and better than ask, I have to pay for this attention. And the dog will start sitting in front of you to prepay for that attention. When it does, make sure you do pet or recognize or reward that. Otherwise, it's going to go back to nudging you. If you want to pet the dog and you would still tell it to sit. And remember to use the watchword of paycheck. So if someone comes in and I sees I'm petting Dixie and she's standing, they say, paycheck to me, that means I suspect you forgot to pet with a purpose. I would stop petting even if I did it right. Tell her to sit. When she sits, I pet her on her chin and say sit and say, actually, I asked her to sit, blah, blah, blah. So even if you get it right, it just gives you another opportunity to practice. This will increase the dog's respect for you as an authority figure. It'll boost the dog's confidence, which will make it less reactive on walks. It'll help it practice listening to you. And it also makes your pets more valuable. So it really does, it's in it. And if you get in the habit of doing this, every time you pet your dog, it becomes this little micro dog training session that happens without you even being aware of the fact that you're doing it. We also talked about passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to organically offer the behavior that we want and recognizing and rewarding them. Most of us inadvertently, and the Guardian was doing it here a lot, rewarding the dog for the wrong thing. It nudges us, we pet it. It jumps up on us, we pet it. It invades our personal space, we pet it. Barks, we pet it. So that's getting the attention. And also, when the dog does things we don't want, that gets our immediate attention. So a lot of times the dog comes to us, we ignore that, it sits at our feet, we ignore that it drops the ball, we ignore it, it lays at our feet, we ignore that. But as soon as it starts eating poop or chewing or barking, we get up and we correct it. Remember, good attention, bad attention, same thing. So by rewarding your dog when it does the things that you want voluntarily, that makes it more inclined to do that again because that seems to be what attracts your attention. And if I do the other things, nothing happens. Now for the poop eating, again, go to a structured feeding. I would go to the green spot. I promise you that if you get higher quality food, that's going to increase, at least worst case scenario, it'll make Marley more interested in eating. So when you eat, I have a structured feeding. I call it structured feeding. I have videos on my website for this as well. So what I do is I put food in both bowls with the dogs outside the kitchen. It's windy, sorry. And then basically I eat something as a human, because dogs eat in the order of rank. So the human eats something in 5 bites first. Then I would invite probably Dixie to come over, tap the bowl. When she comes over and takes her first bite of food, use that passive training to come up with a command word to eat. I say grub, feast, and lasagna. Each one of my dogs has its own unique command word. The way I assigned it is every time Max took his first bite of food, I said the word lasagna. Do that for about 3 or 4 months. Then I say lasagna, he runs over and eats it, because when he hears lasagna, there's food in his mouth. My other 2 dogs hear lasagna, there's no food in their mouth. It's not their command word. So so use that passive training for that. And also, I forgot, for passive training, I use the watchword of celebrate. So celebrate, if somebody points to you and says celebrate, that means the dog just did something that is desirable that you should be petting for, but you missed it. So you stop what you're doing and start petting the dog as soon as you possibly can. And then you identify what position the dog's in. If it's standing there, assume it just came to you. Pet it as they come. And then you pet it as much or as little as you want. So this will motivate the dog to do those particular behaviors. Let me see. Going back to eating, so structured feeding. So you put the bowls down, you eat something first, then you invite Dixie to come over. When she gets done and walks away, you pick up her bowl, dump any remaining food out, put the empty bowl back down. She has to stay out of the kitchen. Then we invite Marley to come over. Marley starts eating. When he gets done, when he walks away, we dump any remaining food out of his bowl, and he's done until the next meal. Let's put you in charge of food. Also, if you're feeding at the same time, I'd like you to, because you're right now doing a good job of watching the dog, so write down the time that you fed him, and then write down the time of poop number 1, poop number 2, poop number 3. The dog, I promise you, is not digesting food faster to get to the poop to eat. Just like us, we can't, some people, I guess monks can slow down their heart rate, but we can't say, give myself lower blood pressure even though I want it. I can't, just because I want it doesn't mean I can make my body produce it. Some people can do some of those things, but I'm not one of them. And dogs are nowhere near that sophisticated. So if you feed your dog in a regular time, and you keep track of when that is, when they eat and when they frequently poop for about a week, you should know the windows where your dog's gonna need to eat. Now it's gonna depend on, obviously, different types of food and things like that, but now you kind of know when, and for a lot of dogs, switching them to higher value food eliminates the poop eating. So that might be something that also is rewardable. If not, what I would do is have your dog out there and get some really high, like the treats that we have, and as soon as he gets done pooping, say the word potty or business or whatever the word is when he's doing his pooping, and then make a kissing sound. When he looks at you, lower your hand with a treat in it. When he comes over to you, give him a treat. Take a couple steps back towards the door, give him another treat. So walk, and then maybe after 2 or 3 steps, walk all the way inside, close the door, then go clean up the poop. He doesn't see you clean it up. When he comes out, there's no poop left. If you do this consistently for a while, after a while, he gets out of a habit of eating the poop. And if you give him better quality food, he's going to eat that and enjoy that, as opposed to trying to, and the dogs do eat scat. It's gross, but they do it. It's very normal. But they can catch parasites and other things like that. So I'd rather get the dog a higher quality food and motivate them to want to eat what we want. Now the video above, I'm not going to go over the pre-healing technique. The Guardian, if you're interested in doing that loose leash walking class, like I said, let us know. I understand it's pricey for us to come by, but I'm the only private dog behaviorist in Nebraska, and I'm booked up like crazy, and I've got a tremendously high success rate for this. By switching the leader-follower dynamic, by rewarding the things that dog does that you want, you create motivation for the dog to want to listen to you, respect for you as an authority figure, and you're helping it practice the good behavior they want. Once they've done that enough, like I said, it takes 66 days for a dog to form a behavior pattern. After they do it consistently a number of times in a row, they just kind of continue to do that particular behavior. Then you'll forget about all the problem behaviors they have because you're rewarding the things that you want. All right, now if you have any questions on this stuff or anything else, please don't hesitate. Text me. If I don't hear from you, I assume that means everything's going great. I don't charge for text or phone calls. Text is the absolute fastest way to reach me. Email and Facebook is about the slowest. I get about 100 emails a day. As a client, if you text me, it will go to the top of the list. If you email me, it goes in with everybody else. So I want you to have the VIP access. Practice the stuff we went over. Watch this video a month from today, or about a month later. Most of my clients will get little bits and pieces of stuff from when we talk about it, and then when we rewatch these videos, they'll get little pieces and kernels of information that'll help later on. If there are other problems and stuff going on, let me know. I'm happy to share videos with you of other clients. A lot of times that can fix the problem. If I have to come out and work with you, I would charge you for my time, but a lot of times a couple of quick phone calls or text messages or sharing a couple of videos does the trick. All right, this is the roadmap to success for Marley and Dixie. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.